Welcome to Strip Coverlet. I am Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here with a poem review, but not just any poem review. What is this, Dalton?
This is another patron poem. This is for Jordie from Let's Talk About Books, Baby. Yes. We have Animal on set, Jordie's representation, because she wanted to read more classics, and we're terrible people. And this is Annabel Lee.
What's more classic than Annabel?
Come on, you just wanted an animal figure.
It's amazing.
This is Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. So, good things, bad things?
Well,
you ready?
I think we should start off with two readings.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's
how
what we
normally
read
do with
poetry. I forget about this. I want you to go ahead and start it here. I'll get my copy down.
Okay. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out a cloud chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels not half so happy in heaven, when everything her and me, yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither with the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dismay my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lay down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in the sepulchre by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea.
Look at that. Look at that. How beautiful. We have different versions again.
Really?
Different edits, different versions. So let me read mine, the proper, correct version. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. She was a child, and I was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee. With a love that winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me, and this was the reason that, long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloudy night, chilling my Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, and of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I see the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide, I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in the sepulchre by the sea, there by the sea, in her tomb, by the side of the sea. By the side of the sea, that's how mine ends, as compared to yours.
This is interesting. You said yours is the correct version.
This is the correct version.
Then why did it sound like it was written without rhythm?
This was the correct version. This is obviously the Barnes & Noble edition. So Barnes & Noble would never sell me anything that's wrong, Adrian.
As opposed to Castle Books.
I'm going to attempt to not knock Animal over again.
Did you have notes in your book?
I do have a quote from my book, but I was going to put it back up there. It's such a pretty copy. Best line. What do you say is your best line?
Well, you threw me out of my rhythm, Dalton. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with the love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me.
It is a good line. It really is. I have for the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise, but I see the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee.
And I would like to go back and correct myself. I said, can never dismay, but
Can
the
never
line
dissever.
is, yeah. Can never dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee.
That's what actually first made me pay attention, because I'm like, oh, wrong.
Yeah.
I'm
Dalton, you son of a...
I'm so sorry. So good things and bad things about this poem. What do you got?
3 good things. Number 1, there is an impeccable rhythm here, which you
Okay.
did not necessarily get from Dalton's reading, even though it is the correct version. 2, this is a rather terse version of a narrative poem.
Okay.
Not a lot of wasted here. 3, the narrative is a straight start. I don't know what that word is.
You can't read your own handwriting?
No, I don't know what that says. But it is easily understood.
Okay.
Right?
I have that this is a very different, subtle Poe. This isn't the jumping horror macabre Poe. I like that. The idea of loss and young love is both crippling and tragic in this. And this flows with an elegant simplicity. I think there's a lot with the rhythm that you mentioned there. Bad things, though, because there's bad things with good things.
Because this is a straight shot poem, right? Like,
Yes.
you're going straight through the narrative here. You lose some of the nuance of storytelling, which can enhance different aspects of the narrative.
Okay.
2, the repetition here can be a turnoff.
Okay.
And 3, if you would like to read this poem's artistic sister, you should see Emily Dickinson.
Now, repetition being a turnoff. Usually I'm the one who says that. It does not bother me in this one,
Really?
which I think is very interesting.
Okay.
Bad things. Reading this and wanting the expectations of Poe that you may know may be disappointing to you. This is pretty much cut and dry. There's not a lot to dig out here, and you may get a hint of Emily Dickinson in here. So you need to be very wary that could put you off if you're trying to read Emily Dickinson.
Okay,
So-
so you balked when I mentioned Emily Dickinson. Why is that?
Because that was my bad point, not your bad point. I just, put it in the correct terms that this may remind you of Emily Dickinson, and that's a bad thing.
I think this is the generic version of Emily
Oh,
Dickinson.
no,
Yes.
no. I've read so many Emily Dickinson poems on this channel now, I'm just burnt out on them. So, yeah. Yeah.
I don't like this, but now I am burnt out on it. You never liked Emily Dickinson.
Why did my
You
voice
hold that
change there?
against
That's
me.
not normal Dalton voice.
I don't know. It was just,
There you go, much better, I take that. So tell me about this poem. What would you like to talk about?
Let's talk about the repetition that got me, but apparently did not get you.
Okay.
Do you have any feeling on why that repetition did not get you?
Well, I said that this, one of my good things was that this flows very simply and very elegantly. I like it.
Yeah. I think that because those words fit so smoothly into the rhythm of this piece, it is easy to overlook so many words happening so quickly.
Okay.
Right? But I think the reason that it stands out to me, I pride myself more on being a writer than a reader.
Okay.
I think at this point you still pride yourself more on being a critic than a writer, right?
Oh, look, I'm a critic now. I'm not
Well,
just a reader.
but-
yeah.
Is that true?
Yes, absolutely
okay.
so.
And I think that's why not just the repetition, it was not repetition of lines.
Okay.
It was a repetition of words within a line. The same word happening 2-3 times in a line that got me, because from a writer's perspective, that's going to stand out to you.
Yes.
And it's going to trip you up. Whereas from a reading perspective, when you sit down and you find the rhythm in this, those words fall so lock and step into place
Okay.
that it's easy to overlook the fact that, yes, love happens 3 times in that one line.
Yes. Annabel Lee is mentioned literally every other line.
Right.
But it does flow well. It really does. It seems very simple. in a poetic sense, but very elegant nonetheless. It sounds good to the ear, it reads well. I enjoyed it. I really did. I was actually quite surprised how much I enjoyed this piece, because usually I dismiss Poe pretty quickly. Right. As everyone who has ever read Poe does. But this one did take me by surprise. So thank you, Jordie, first and foremost.
Why did this take you by surprise?
I don't know. And here's my thing here. I'm not going to say this.
I'm not going to say
but
this.
I'm going to say
I'm
this.
going to say.
We just came off from reading Emily Dickinson, If You Were Coming in the Fall, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then we get this poem, which is very much reminiscent of Emily Dickinson.
Right. This is the blue can Emily Dickinson.
The blue can?
Emily Dickinson Light.
Oh, that's terrible. I enjoyed this. Maybe I'm just still on an Emily Dickinson high, which is a bad place for me to be in. But I enjoyed this.
Okay, so Emily Dickinson is Target. This is Walmart.
Okay. This is very convenient, enjoyable. I got in and got out what I needed.
But you had to stand in line through all of the repetition.
They have a self-checkout now, like in and out. So, anyway.
Here I am just bashing Jordie's poem.
Yes, yes.
But no, I thought that this was enjoyable. I thought that there were a lot of things here worth reading, that were interesting, that were nice to look at.
Well, from the surface level here, this is a tragic loss. This is a loss of what could be considered a first love. It is made very clear that they are very young lovers, and their love is very passionate. And the loss of the first love is always very difficult. It's something you really never get over. But in this particular instance, this isn't just a separation. This is loss through death of the female companion. So that is difficult. And it is very beautifully captured here because you do get the pain and suffering of the narrator, coupled with the memories of such a passionate love.
You say passionate.
Yes.
What makes you point to the word passionate?
I have to pull my book. I'm going to knock Animal over again.
Take it.
Nope. Give me your book. Let's see. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me.
But that does not necessarily convey passion.
Oh, that conveys passion.
Okay, then I think we're thinking of different passions.
Okay.
Passion is fervency.
Okay.
This sounds more like dependence, right?
I don't think so.
Even when she dies, I'm going to spend time with her.
He is still dependent on her, yes. He goes to lay by her side.
Passion burns hot.
Okay.
This does not sound like it burns hot.
This
sounds like I'm not saying... Look, passion is a word which conveys very specific ideas. What ideas does passion convey to you?
This love was so passionate and burned so hot that even in death, he is still inexplicably attached to her.
I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll point to it.
That's what I just said. Look at that defines.
That does not define passion. That does not define burning hot.
We're going to argue this here. Okay, so let's look at the sea.
We're going to argue this here. Let's move on.
Let's look at the sea.
Okay.
Let's look at the sea. The sea is representation of their love. It's a young love. It is, what do I got here? A powerful and infinite love.
Okay.
Which would be representation of young, passionate love.
Young does not mean passionate.
Restless, powerful, infinite.
Infinite does not mean passionate. Infinite I will give you.
Okay.
Infinite seems to be there.
Okay.
Passionate, I don't know if it is. This doesn't read like that love.
But it seems that their time together was highlighted in both beauty and ultimately the pain of loss.
And dependency.
It's the cruelty of the sea being represented here. The sea's a beautiful thing, but if you go out there, I mean, we just read Hemingway not long ago.
You might not come back.
You ain't coming back sometimes. So there is a representation here of both their relationship and the sea. So I think it is wonderful that they're coupled together here. But the sea is also a beautiful thing. It's powerful. It's infinite. It's very indicative of a beautiful relationship.
But we do not simply have the sea, do we?
What else do we have?
We have the kingdom.
We do have the kingdom.
This is the kingdom by the sea.
And she's buried by the sea.
What do kingdoms represent? Power.
Power.
Stability.
Stability.
Masculinity.
Okay.
You're talking about a kingdom, not a queendom, right?
This is true.
So, if we're talking... What I want to know is this kingdom by the sea. What is this? This is him, right? The sea is her. But this kingdom kingdoms are always by water.
Okay.
So if the kingdom's by the water, the kingdom's by the sea, we have two things that are necessary for each other.
They're necessary for each other, and they're necessary to be together, but the sea can destroy the kingdom.
And the sea does... Well, I misspoke there.
Okay.
The sea does not need the kingdom.
No.
The kingdom needs the sea.
Yes.
The kingdom is the masculine. The sea is the feminine.
Okay.
The kingdom is reliant upon the feminine.
Okay.
This kingdom by the sea, he's going to lay with his lady after she's died, right?
Okay.
Now we get into that a little bit, right? That here we go now. For the moon never beamed without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so, all the night tide I lay down beside of my darling, my life and my bride, in the sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. Is our narrator dead?
Hey, look, I even wrote that. Is the speaker dead in the end? Look at that. There is a hint towards that, especially if you look at the word night tide. Night tide obviously meaning the night is coming. At the end of this, the speaker has laid down by the side of his bride and is engulfed in darkness.
Yes.
There is the possible interpretation here that the speaker has either died of grief or has killed himself.
Right. That's the interpretation that I come to, because he is laying down beside.
Yes.
He is not laid down beside.
No, he is laying down. He is waiting for darkness to engulf him.
In fact, this reads a bit like a suicide note.
Okay.
Does it not? Because he, at the end there, we have, I lie down beside. I am in the act.
Yes.
But lie down is not laying down. Lie down implies a length to this, right?
Yes.
It implies an autonomy by the speaker, and it implies that it was a choice made.
And I do like that interpretation of the speaker is killing himself in the end of this. The concept of suicide here is very strong. He's obviously dealing with a lot of grief, a lot of loss and suffering from Annabel Lee. This is the man remembering the beautiful thing that they had together, and quite literally says, I'm laying myself by the side of her grave.
Yeah.
And waiting for the darkness to come.
Yes.
So, I would agree wholeheartedly that this gentleman is killing himself at the end of this novel. End of this poem, excuse me. This whole novel of one page.
Yeah. Well, and when we speak about Poe, we also speak about, on this channel, we've spoken about Mask of the Red Death.
Yes.
And its apocalyptic tendencies, right?
Yes.
Its apocalyptic readings. If we're looking at this is the kingdom ending.
Okay.
Is this apocalyptic?
It could be.
Can this be the big through the small?
It very well could be. Because if the man is representative of the kingdom has ended. Yeah. The lineage is done.
We talk about oftentimes on the channel that literature is the big through the small or the small through the big.
Yes.
This is a small story.
Yes.
If he is the kingdom and she is the sea, versus the metaphor working the other way around, this is the big through the small, and we have an apocalyptic event for this kingdom, right? The kingdom is dying.
Okay.
So is there any reading which may lead to an interpretation of who Annabel Lee is, if he is the kingdom?
Do you have something in mind?
I don't.
I don't either. That would be something that
this
would be
was
very
anticlimactic.
That would be something that's interesting to look into, though, for sure.
What I mean by that is, what might it be that would lead to the downfall of a kingdom, right? Mm-hmm. I think that if we're looking at it this way, in the gendering there, oftentimes infertility can lead to, right, the downfall of a kingdom. Not the birth rates not matching up with the rate of people who are dying.
Well, if you are looking at this, this Annabel Lee died very young, and the speaker is also very young. This could be, the death of youth. Very much Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, how the kingdom is literally shattered by the death of the two young lovers. So you could look at it through that light as well. What I really enjoyed about this poem, though, and I got into this a little bit with Emily Dickinson last week, this seems different than a normal Poe. We don't have the macabre, we don't have the grotesque. No.
We have macabre.
Well, he's laying down by the sepulcher by the sea. That's fine.
Yeah, anytime you get the word sepulcher and it's not an Emily Dickinson poem, there's probably a macabre going on. Right?
But this isn't a man's psychotic breakdown in the Telltale Heart. This isn't Mask of the Red Death.
There is not the grotesque.
There is not the grotesque.
I will give you that there's not the grotesque.
But it seems a more subtle Poe, much like as we were doing last week, if you were coming in the fall, seemed very different of Dickinson.
Okay.
This seems to be more Poe flexing his literary chops here, in my opinion, proving that he can write more than just the grotesque horror story. This is a wonderful poem. I really enjoyed it. So I think...
You say flexing his literary muscle. Flexing his literary muscle how? What is the literature...
This is different than what he is normally writes.
That does not point to flexing. I'm gonna harp on your nomenclature here.
Well, you always harp on my nomenclature. This is
it's important to be specific with words because words do specific things.
This is Stephen King sitting down and be like, look at me, I'm writing poetry now. Wonderful poetry, beautiful poetry. That doesn't deal with, cars that are coming to kill people or pet cemeteries.
But we've still got macabre.
Slightly macabre.
This falls very much within the wheelhouse of Poe, if you ask me.
Slightly macabre. This has a very different feel than a normal Poe does for me.
This isn't Stephen King writing The Green Mile.
No, it's not. But this isn't focusing on the reader's psychotic breakdown after Annabel Lee. This is focusing more on the love between the two.
If you're reading this as a suicide note, it very much does, doesn't it?
The suicide is tragic, yes.
It's a breakdown of the speaker.
But it's not the breakdown that we normally see with Poe. This is not Telltale Heart. This is not
Telltale
Fall
Heart.
of the House of Usher.
You still have a speaker that we have to wonder whether or not that speaker is already dead. Don't you?
Is he already dead? No. Is he killing himself at the end? I would say yes.
Okay.
But that makes it tragic and romantic as compared to grotesque and macabre.
Where is the line between tragic and macabre?
I don't know. And maybe that's
For me, the line between tragic and macabre is a revelry in that which is definitive of horror, okay. Right? This seems very much to be revelry in the act that's taking place, does it not?
Okay.
He is reveling in the fact that, hey man, I'm going to do it. We're on our way.
And maybe trying to narrow down what is making this different. Maybe there is a lack of the supernatural, which seems to happen in Poe.
We have angels.
We have angels.
We have winged seraphs of heaven. Those things aren't supernatural.
But this is not a man. I hate you so much.
This is not what
now.
A man.
I cannot make a point in this channel without you being like, nope, I don't agree with that, so it's wrong. It is totally wrong.
No, that's not what I'm doing.
This is what is happening.
I bring counterpoints.
I hate your counterpoints.
I am not presenting an unbarbed argument.
But if we look at the Raven, we do not have the supernatural possibility that the Raven is speaking. If we look at the Telltale Heart, we do not have the supernatural possibility that there is something going on with the old man's evil eye. In this seems more realistic, in my opinion.
Okay, I suppose I can grant you that if you're a Christian, because these angels seem very animated. They seem to be real. They do not seem to be a poet longing for someone.
Well, you could go for the arguments.
The angels not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea.
Well, you could go the argument that upon great tragedy, and usually upon being faced with one's own death, that is where one finds religion.
Sure.
Which, is a flaw. It is, in my opinion. But if we look at it in that aspect, it would be very realistic.
But it is still an implication of the supernatural, is it not?
Quite possibly so. Depends on how you want to read that one. Anyway, before I consider just throwing my book and leaving, what would you rate this poem? What would you give this?
I would give this 85 Evanescence songs out of 100.
Evanescence. I gave this 90 winged seraphs.
You liked this much more than I did.
I really actually enjoyed this piece. Recommendation?
I Died for Beauty by Emily Dickinson, where you can see it done well.
If You Were Coming in the Fall, Emily Dickinson.
How does this relate to If You Were Coming in the Fall?
That was the one
I guess, bringing in the harvest, I suppose.
In my opinion, If You Were Coming in the Fall felt very different than every other Dickinson I'd been exposed to. This feels very different than every other Poe that I've been exposed to. I recommended Dickinson, and you're still pissed about it, so...
Well, because you did it wrong.
Because I did it wrong. I see how it is. Anyway, we would like to thank Jordie from Let's Talk About Books, Baby. She is one of our patrons, and she suggested this poem.
Yes.
So make sure you do follow her link down below. Go check out her channel. She puts up some great content, and we're very appreciative that she could share this poem with us.
Yes.
Additionally, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below for us. Hit this like video for Jordie as well. Adrian?
Make sure you follow us on Twitter @StripCover and on Facebook @StripCoverLit.